You ever just stop and look around and think, this doesn't feel like life? Not really. Like, yeah, you're existing, you're breathing, you're moving through the motions, but there's this weird, low-key numbness under everything. Like you're here, but also not fully here. And maybe no one else notices it, but you do. You smile at people, you play along, you talk like things are fine. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, am I even living, or am I just reacting? See, no one teaches you how much of your reality is actually a loop. Just a set of filters you didn't choose, beliefs you never questioned, and habits that feel like truth only because you've repeated them so much. It's not that your life is fake, it's that your perception of it has been edited so quietly. You didn't even notice. You were born into a system, a structure, a pace, a set of expectations, and before you had the words to challenge it, you accepted it as real. And that's the problem, because now you're an adult, and your brain is still showing you a version of reality that was built by fear, by pressure, by approval, by the need to be accepted or productive or useful or whatever the hell they said success looks like. But what if none of that was real? What if the way you see life, the way you see yourself, isn't actually your vision at all? It's just a program, a lens, a set of ideas that got installed while you were just trying to survive. And maybe that's why you feel like something's off. Not because you're broken, but because you're finally starting to wake up to the fact that the world you experience is not the same as the world that actually exists. It's not that reality needs to change, it's that how you see it does. And I'm not here to give you some abstract philosophy. I'm just going to show you, piece by piece, how your mind has been shaping everything without your permission. And once you see it, like actually see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Here's the part that most people never realize. You're not seeing reality. You're seeing a filtered version of it through the lens of your upbringing, your beliefs, your fears, your survival instincts, your past. And the worst part? You didn't choose most of those filters. They were handed to you before you even knew you had a choice. You walk around thinking, this is how life is. But what you really mean is, this is how life has always looked to me. There's a difference. Let that hit for a second. You've been calling the filter truth, but it's just conditioning, programming, automatic perception. Like, imagine putting on sunglasses when you're 3 years old and never taking them off. You'd forget the world ever looked any different. You'd swear the sky is darker, the colors are muted, the light's just dimmer. But it's not the world. It's the lens. And the longer you wear it, the more convinced you are that it's real. That's how your mind works. That's how your reality works. Your thoughts aren't neutral. They come preloaded with tone, judgment, meaning. You see someone glance at you, and your brain already assigns a story. They don't like me. I look stupid. Why are they judging me? But they just looked. That's it. The rest? That's your filter. And if you don't become aware of that filter, if you don't start questioning it, then every single thing you experience is being shaped by a story you didn't consciously write. Think about how many times you've talked yourself out of peace, how many times you were safe but felt unsafe, how many times you were good enough, but your mind told you you weren't. That's not intuition. That's a perception problem. That's a distorted reality. And the scariest part, when you're deep in it, it feels normal. It feels like truth. But it's just noise dressed up like logic. It's your old wounds pretending to be facts. It's your conditioning whispering in your own voice. So yeah, you think you're awake. But in reality, you're still moving through a version of the world that was built before you ever questioned who you were. That's not freedom. That's autopilot with better vocabulary. Here's the messed up part nobody really talks about. After years of living through that filter, you start building your entire life around it. You pick your relationships based on it. You choose jobs that feel safe inside it. You avoid situations that challenge it. You even create goals, not based on what would actually fulfill you, but based on what your distorted perception thinks will finally make you feel whole. Like, you ever chase something for years, finally get it, and then just feel flat? That weird anticlimactic silence where you're like, wait, why don't I feel the way I thought I would? Yeah, that's the filter. You weren't chasing what you actually needed. You were chasing what your programming told you would look like happiness. And now, you're left with things that don't fit you, people that don't align, habits that drain you. But you've gotten so used to them that anything outside that feels threatening, even if it's better. Because real clarity, real peace, it doesn't always feel comfortable at first. It feels unfamiliar. And unfamiliar equals danger to a nervous system that's spent its whole life interpreting discomfort as a threat. So instead of evolving, you stay looping, spinning around the same fears, same thought patterns, same beliefs. But now with spiritual language layered on top, you tell yourself, this is just a phase, or I'm processing, but deep down, something's stuck, and you feel it, not in your mind, in your body, that tension in your chest, that ache in your gut, that voice that says there's more than this. But you keep drowning it out with productivity, scrolling, or trying to fix yourself again. But here's the thing, you don't need to fix anything. You just need to start seeing the damn filter. And once you do, once you stop assuming your thoughts are always true, your emotions are always accurate, your perception is always aligned, that's when everything starts to shift. You realize the problem was never life itself. It was the version of life you were taught to see. And the moment you see that, you can't unsee it. It's like walking out of a dark room and realizing, holy shit, this was never the full picture. And it wasn't supposed to be, not until you were ready to look again, with your own eyes this time. So here's the moment where most people get stuck. They realize their perception is warped. They see the patterns. They feel the weight of all the things they've been carrying without realizing it. And then they go looking for the exit in the most predictable place, their mind. They start reading more, journaling harder, analyzing every reaction, every thought, every dream, every emotion. Like, if I just figure this out, I'll finally feel free. But here's the problem. You're trying to escape the trap from inside the trap. It's like realizing you're dreaming and then trying to think your way out of the dream. Using the logic of the dream itself, you just create more layers, more questions, more clever self-analysis that ends up feeding the same confusion you were trying to break out of. That's the illusion. You don't need to figure out the maze. You need to wake up from it. And waking up isn't a thought. It's a shift. It's when you stop running everything through the same mental filter that caused the problem in the first place. Because your mind, it's brilliant at building stories, but it's not great at telling the difference between a story and reality. Not until you start noticing it, watching it, not obeying it by default. The real exit, the only way you ever actually see differently, is when you stop trying to fix the world outside of you and finally start questioning the lens you're looking through. And the wild part is, the moment you stop arguing with reality, the moment you stop trying to reshape the external to match your internal stories, things begin to feel lighter. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you're no longer carrying the extra weight of false meaning. You're not walking into every room already expecting rejection. You're not interpreting silence as failure. You're not labeling every uncomfortable feeling as proof that something is wrong with you. You're just here with what's real, not what's familiar, not what's projected, just real. And that's when the illusion starts to crack. That's when the picture starts to change, not because reality shifted, but because you finally took the glasses off. And you start to notice little things, like how much beauty you used to ignore, how much tension you were holding, how many stories you were believing that never belonged to you. It doesn't feel like some loud breakthrough. It feels like stillness, like a sigh you didn't know you were holding. And maybe for the first time in your life, you don't feel the need to explain anything. You're just aware, not of thoughts, Not of problems, just of presence, of now. At first, it doesn't feel like some big awakening. It doesn't feel like fireworks or a cosmic download. It's more like quiet confusion. Not the kind that makes you panic, but the kind that makes you pause. Like you suddenly realize, wait, why do I always assume that? Orient. Where did that thought even come from? And now you're catching it, the autopilot, noticing how quickly your mind wants to label everything, how fast it rushes to conclusions that don't even help you. You sit down in silence, and for once, you're not trying to do anything with it. You're just there, feeling the room, noticing the tension in your jaw, noticing the stories playing out in your head like background music, and suddenly realizing you don't have to turn the volume up. You just let it be. And that alone is a radical shift, because you spent your whole life trying to control everything. Your emotions, your outcomes, the way people see you. You've used overthinking as a defense mechanism. You've micromanaged your thoughts, hoping if you could just stay one step ahead of the fear, you'd finally feel safe. But all that effort, it built a mental prison, not because you were weak, but because you were afraid. Afraid to sit still in the unknown, afraid to not be in control. But now, you're sitting in it. And weirdly, it's not as scary as you thought. It's calm, unfamiliar, but calm. You start to realize that you don't need to get rid of every uncomfortable emotion. You don't need to solve every thought. You don't need to assign meaning to every damn thing that happens, because most of your suffering wasn't coming from the moment itself. It was coming from the story you kept attaching to it, the lens you never knew you were wearing. And now that it's cracking, you can feel your breath again. You can feel space again. Not the fake kind of space where you push people away and call it boundaries. Real space. The kind that lets you finally just exist without constantly auditioning for peace. You're no longer asking, am I doing it right? You're just doing it, breathing, living, observing, letting things come and go without needing them to mean something about you. And that's what changing your reality actually feels like. Not dramatic, not loud, just real. Like life is finally happening with you, not at you. You won't even notice the exact moment it happens. There's no alarm, no spotlight, no voice in your head saying, congratulations, you did it. It just clicks, subtly, softly, almost like reality exhaled and made space for you again. You'll wake up one day and something will feel different. Not the world, you, your pace, your relationship to everything around you. You'll still feel emotions, but they won't consume you the same way. You'll still hear the thoughts, but you won't confuse them for truth anymore. You'll hear your old programming come up. That voice that says you're not enough, that you're behind, that you need to figure it all out. But now, instead of obeying it, you'll just observe it and maybe even smile a little, because now you know that's not you. That's just the echo of a system you never fully believed in, a survival mechanism, a leftover voice from a version of you that had no choice but to believe the lie. But this version of you, this one sees. You don't just understand that reality is shaped by perception. You're living it now. You're in rooms and you feel lighter, not because the room changed, but because you stopped dragging your past into it. You stopped editing the present through the lens of who you thought you needed to be. And that shift, it changes everything. It changes how you love. Because now you're not just loving people through your fears. You're actually seeing them, feeling them, meeting them without the armor. It changes how you respond to silence. You no longer rush to fill it with noise or panic or distraction. You sit in it and you notice it's not empty, it's alive. It changes how you move through your day. You're no longer just chasing the next feeling. You're finally here for this one. And you'll have moments, no doubt, where you slip back into the filter, where your old patterns try to reclaim the wheel. But now you catch it quicker. Not because you're perfect, but because you're present. That's the difference. Not perfection, presence. Because once you start to truly see, once the illusion begins to crumble, once you realize your reality was never a fixed thing, but a living mirror shaped by your state of being, you don't go back. You might forget. You might fall asleep for a while, but you always wake back up faster, because something in you knows now. It's not about changing the world. It's about finally seeing it clearly, without the fog, without the filters, without the fear. And when that happens, even just once, you realize you don't need to escape reality. You just need to meet it with new eyes. If something in you softened while listening to this, if something cracked open just a little, not in your mind, but deeper, in that quiet place where truth always feels familiar, then don't just move on to the next video. Don't scroll away like this was just more content. Let it land. Let this be the moment you don't go back into autopilot, the moment you don't try to label what you feel, the moment you actually sit with it without needing to explain it to yourself or anyone else. And if this video met you, like really met you where you're at, drop the word "seen" in the comments. That's it. No long message, no explanation, just that one word, to let the others know they're not alone in this shift. And if you want to keep seeing content like this, the kind that doesn't sugarcoat, doesn't preach, doesn't rush, just subscribe. Not because I want numbers, but because this kind of space matters. And I want you to have a place that reminds you of what's real, especially when the world feels anything but. So, take a breath. You're here, and that means you're already further than you think.